Although The Undertaker and John Cena did face each other at WrestleMania eventually, what if in 2007, when The Undertaker won the Royal Rumble, if he chose John Cena as his WrestleMania opponent instead of the Animal Batista? Let's talk about it. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Thank God for Wrestling podcast. I'm co-host number one, CJ McClure.
Co-host number two, Johnny King.
And with it being WrestleMania season, you can't talk about WrestleMania without the dead man. You can't talk about WrestleMania without John Cena. We wanted to go down the what if rabbit hole of if what if the Undertaker chose John Cena instead of Batista. So right off the bat, Johnny, this is obviously a what if video for a reason, but I think if they would have went down this route, not a doubt in my mind that those two would have main evented that WrestleMania 23.
Oh, for sure. That would have been the match of the year, you know. John Cena, who has newly become the face of the company, versus Undertaker, who already has pretty much an established streak at this point at WrestleMania. And I don't know if the outcome would have been different. I feel like the Undertaker would still kept his streak to go on, but it would have been the biggest match of that year for sure.
But what you just said was my first question. Is let's really like think about that for a minute of who would have won. And I have arguments for both, and I'm curious of your thoughts. So what you just said, Cena was on the rise. He 04, oh 04 beat Big Show at WrestleMania, won his US title, solid opener at that WrestleMania. WrestleMania 21, the night him and Batista arrived. WrestleMania 22, John's first main event at WrestleMania. And then you have the old guard versus the new guard, which Taker arguably in his prime in '07, despite being year 17 for him. I mean, he was in phenomenal shape in that feud against Batista. But Taker, Mark Calloway always do what was best for business. We know that now. We know that because of him breaking kayfabe and talking about all these stories. We know he would do his best for business. So I think that would have been the huge what if they did face each other that year's WrestleMania is would Vince have gone with the poster boy, the face of the company of John Cena, to retain the WWE championship and break the streak? Be the one in the 14-1 and definitely would have put John over for sure if he wasn't already over by then. Or what you just said, would Undertaker go 15-0 and win the WWE championship, which yes, he won the World Heavyweight Championship against Batista at WrestleMania anyway and continue the streak. And obviously, a world title is a world title, but I think we all know which title WWE has always cared about, and it's their own world title, being the WWE Championship. That could have potentially have been the last time Taker would have held that title with till like what 2002, yeah, 2002 when he beat Hulk Hogan for the undisputed title, which is really the same championship. So like that's just a huge what if for me, and not to crap on their match in WrestleMania 34. That was really Vince's fault that it was a squash.
Mm.
Taker wanted to do a 20-25 minute match, and Taker was in much better shape in 2018 in comparison to 2017. But I mean, these guys, we just said it would have been the match of the year. It would have been the feud of the year. I mean, like how good they were in their prime at that time. I mean, granted, John was kind of doing the five moves of doom in '07, but nonetheless, it would have been a great match. So I mean, like, what do you think of those two rabbit holes?
Yeah, I don't know if depends on if Vince would rather have Undertaker's streak broken. I just don't see. I don't know. I don't see him breaking Undertaker's streak at that early on. I feel like it was too because he didn't break the streak till 21-1. So like, it's hard to think about that. Would he have want John to go over to become the biggest, truest face of the company, or would he have rather kept Undertaker's streak? I feel like they went with Undertaker versus Batista because Batista could take a loss better than John can. Because John was on the rise, he was a new champion. It wasn't quite time for him to lose the belt yet. So I feel like Batista could have taken a title loss better than John Cena could have at that point in time. So I just don't. I don't think I see them ending the streak that early. I don't know. It's hard to think about though.
Hypothetically, if like this match did happen, they did go down the route of Cena breaking the streak, retaining the title, putting him over as basically the next Hulk Hogan, because John's been compared to Hulk Hogan. I think it would have been a similar reaction when Roman Reigns beat Taker at WrestleMania 33 because people were
Yeah.
booing John in '06 and '07.
Mm-hmm.
Like they got tired of him very quickly. And specifically, it really happened at WrestleMania 22. That's when like people started turning on John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know about Vince McMahon's stubbornness. He was stubborn with Roman Reigns for years until he finally pulled the plug and let him turn heel. John never turned heel. So have you ever watched What Culture Wrestling?
Yeah.
So they shout out to them. Love those guys. I watched them years ago. I remember they made a video on how to properly turn John Cena heel, and they booked saying should have had Cena versus Taker at WrestleMania 30, and Cena could have broken the streak then with a low blow when the ref isn't looking, and then attitude adjustment beat Undertaker, broke the streak. That would have been the greatest heel turn of all time. Maybe you could have done that in '07 because in 2007 John Cena was not Superman yet. He was face of the company, but he wasn't Superman yet. And he still was, I mean, John's always a savage on the mic, right? But I mean, oh 06, oh 05, oh 07, John Cena was ruthless on the mic. I mean, the stuff he said to Lita never would catch a break. So and he really was kind of getting booed against the match against Shawn Michaels in the main event of that WrestleMania. So I mean, if they did go that route, maybe that would have been an opportunity to turn John heel.
Yeah, I've always wanted to see John Cena as a heel. Like they've had more than numerous times to do it. They just didn't want to do it because he was this poster boy. He was the Make a Wish guy. He was the one they did do all the PR, go on the TV show. So it was just hard for him to not want to break that character, even if it was on TV. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I don't know, man. It's hard to think about it. It makes you really think what would have happened. I could have seen John Cena going because he wasn't truly a baby face at that time yet. He was just John Cena. He was mean to people. He was just John Cena at that point. He was what the early to mid 2000s were. So it's just it. I could see him turning heel more in that point than later down his career.
So I guess the final question is, how would you book the feud and the match at WrestleMania if Taker would have chose Cena as his WrestleMania opponent?
I'm gonna have Taker win, but I'm gonna have it be a hard fought match. I'm gonna have I'm gonna have I'm gonna have John Cena him and Taker, at least it has to go at least like 30, 35 minutes. It has to be a hard fall. It has to be a slobber knocker, as JR would say. It has to make both people look good. Great false finishes. In the end, Taker wins off maybe a third or fourth tombstone. But John Cena has to go out looking like he can still do it. He still can be the face of the company. And then you can honestly have this feud going for like 2 or 3 more matches, and then have John Cena come out with the title in the end of it. But I just want Taker to keep that win at WrestleMania.
That's a really good point because I would say like you got to make the match a combination of how Taker and Batista went and how Taker and Shawn Michaels went at WrestleMania 25.
Mm,
Like what you just said, the slobber knocker, the I just had an out of body experience, just Undertaker kicked out, Cena kicked out, like they're both guys are never giving up. And you made a very good point that I was going to touch on of like Cena can still be the face of the company despite taking the loss. One might argue a lot of people made a good point, like a lot of people agreed on this, that when the streak started to get recognized and the streak became a prize to capture, because people forget that the streak never really became acknowledged until Taker went 10-0 after he beat Ric Flair.
mm,
That's when it became acknowledged, but it became a prize to capture at WrestleMania 21 between him and Randy Orton when
mm,
he was 12-0 and then Orton challenged him. That's when it became a prize to capture. So one might argue that when the streak became a prize to capture, and if you were booked against Taker at WrestleMania, even if you were going to lose, which obviously everybody did except for Brock and Roman, that was still going to put you over, that you were in that program and you were in that feud. Like that was your time to shine, to go put on a show stealing match with Undertaker. And arguably, when the streak became a prize to capture and WrestleMania season rolled around, it was like, okay, who's going to challenge the streak this year?
mm,
Arguably, WrestleMania 21 through WrestleMania 29, all those Undertaker matches were the show stealers, were the match of the nights. You can make an argument for that.
mm,
So what you just said, I think, is the perfect way to book it. Kick out fest, multiple AAs, multiple tombstones, choke slams, last rides. Go through the announce table, just like Taker and Batista did in their match. And I would even do a false finish with the STF
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
Taker, that was one deal that he made with Vince. I'm not saying like he let his ego get in the way, with the exception of the terrible finish at SummerSlam 2015 with the Kimura lock. But Taker said, I don't want to tap out. I never want to tap out.
Mm-hmm.
And it really makes sense because the dead man, the phenom, why would he tap out?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe kill him, like, because I know people can lose matches by submission by passing out. That would
Mm-hmm.
make sense, but do a false finish that way. So I guess here's the next question for you. Would you rather just a super intense sequence with the STF and Taker just barely gets to the rope, or do the drop the arm once, drop the arm twice, and then Taker stops the last time and like resurrects and gets out of the STF that way, or both? Which do you think would be better in that
You could
instance?
do both, but I would want the arm drop tapping first, and then the
Cross the
crawling to the
rope.
rope tapping second. But that builds way more suspense.
That's true. And I
But
mean, and
yeah.
I mean, like Detroit, 'cause that WrestleMania, solid WrestleMania. WrestleMania 23 was really good. And
Mm-hmm.
that would just have the crowd, I mean, just losing their minds, losing their
Mm-hmm.
minds.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's my hot take. I think Undertaker and Batista was better than John Cena versus Shawn Michaels. So I mean, I will say that I think the problem, if they did go down this route, is what would you have for Batista? You know,
That's true.
who would he
Yeah.
have faced?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess Sean is probably the best bet because like Sean was like on that, the storyline of like the Heartbreak Kid is back and I'm gonna win the world title again, which is
Yeah.
why he faced John Cena. But I feel like that would create a problem is what you have for Batista. But on the other side of that coin, I think this is really one of the biggest missed opportunities to have Undertaker versus John Cena at WrestleMania. I mean, they obviously had their feud when Taker was the American you know what, and John Cena was the Doctor of Thugonomics, and that they had a solid match, and Taker beat him by the last ride. That was a solid match. Like you saw the potential there. They obviously eventually had their match at WrestleMania 34, but it did not live up to the potential. And the reason that Taker and Cena became such a dream match, even though they had faced before, is because how much bigger they kept getting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think WrestleMania 23 would have been the perfect time to do it because I mean, Taker was definitely in his prime. John was on the rise. Like I said, would have been the old guard versus the new guard.
Yeah, for sure, bro.
But yeah, man, I mean, that's really all I have. I mean, to kind of go down this rabbit hole, but I'll leave you this fun fact, and you may already know this, but in case of any of the viewers haven't known this, The Undertaker has never walked into WrestleMania as world champion, but
I,
he's
I believe,
walked, yeah, but he's
yeah.
walked out of WrestleMania three times as world champion.
Mhm. And
Or, yes, three times.
that goes to show how Undertaker is such an icon that he doesn't need a belt and he doesn't need to fight for a belt. Like the streak is bigger than a belt is. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No,
Yeah.
yeah, like Taker said it on a podcast with Stone Cold Steve Austin years ago. He said he felt like because of his character, he was a better chaser instead of being a champion.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I guess my hot take, I think John Cena low key a better champion than a chaser. Not that he wasn't a good chaser, but it was just like once Cena became Superman and was like WWE champion like all the time, then it was like the question of, well, who's going to dethrone babyface Cena?
Mm-hmm.
So like I think that's another thing that would have made this match so good if it would have happened is that Super Cena versus the Dead Man, at that time. Because like
Yeah.
'05 through '07 Cena, that was Super Cena, hands down. I mean, the only thing that stopped Cena from having world title reigns was Edge cashing in. Even Cena was able to kick out a one spear. It took two spears, not one, after the first cash in, and John's own injury. It was his own body in his match against Mr. Kennedy that late in '07, he like something with his shoulder. I forgot what the full injury was, and then returned to the '08 Royal Rumble. So I mean, yeah, man, this has been one of my biggest what ifs in wrestling history. Other than this, probably Undertaker versus Sting at WrestleMania 32. Or no,
Mm-hmm.
31. 32 or 31 could have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, that's all we have. About we go down some rabbit holes on the road to WrestleMania. We appreciate you guys as always. We hope you're enjoying the road to WrestleMania. I think they're cooking right now. We look forward to talking to you guys about that. Stay tuned for more content as we get closer. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. I'm CJ McClure. Thank God for wrestling.
Yes, sir. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys for the support on everything so far, and we'll look forward to pushing more content out for you guys. And yeah, I'm Johnny King. Thank God for wrestling. Peace.